baby, you know you're the one for me. You and me and her, simultaneous, you and me, and we know the rider. Simultaneous loving, baby, 2 or 3, simultaneous, woo, come on.
In 1997, Matt Stone and Trey Parker would release South Park, a raunchy cartoon about 4 idiot kids in Colorado that immediately became a titanic success, launched Comedy Central as a network, and became a merchandising juggernaut throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, in spite of its content. And in 1998, Acclaim would get the exclusive license to make South Park video games, making 3. The most famous, South Park, a first-person shooter, South Park Rally, a kart racer, and today's subject, South Park Chef's Love Shack, a trivia game with bad mini-games. There isn't a tremendous amount more to it. It's a simple one-mode party game whose most notable attribute is bringing in Matt Stone, Trey Parker, and Isaac to reprise their roles, although I suspect that most of it is archival footage, if not all of it. Chef's Love Shack, released in late 1999 for all the major consoles of the time, Nintendo 64, PlayStation, Dreamcast, and PC. It's kinda shocking it didn't grace the Game Boy. Describing a trivia game show game as bizarre feels odd, but here we are. On its face, things are fairly normal. A buzz-in style trivia game show for up to 4 players, focused on crude and silly questions about testicles and fat people. But every element feels weird and wrong. I love me a good trivia game, honestly. I've played tons of Trivia Murder Party, but there's just... where do I start? The game has the buzz-in problem. You don't need to wait to hear a question before buzzing in, so there's essentially a button mashing component to be the first to buzz in, and then you're stuck guessing the answer from 2 to 3 words of context. You essentially need a gentleman's agreement out of this playstyle, but the person in last has little reason to abide by this as they're already losing. Perhaps that's a friend group issue. Trivia games usually have some issue like this, and it's kind of unavoidable unless you do like everyone gets to answer things, but it's a little rough. The whole trivia portion is straightforward. There's an occasional daily double type thing where you get to wager points to potentially double them, which is cool as you get to see more than 3 words in a question since your opponents can't answer, but it's mostly trivia, although with a lot more dick and poopy jokes. There's a few questionable aspects on top of this. There are no computer-controlled opponents, so it's a pretty lonely game without friends. Guess they couldn't be asked to balance them. I don't know what you do. You can't just have them cut off the question, but if they have to wait for the question to finish, they're just cooked. But the real kicker is all the weird extra shit layered on top. Sometimes out of nowhere, one player gets a lightning round, but it can't be the player playing as Cartman. You choose left or right to categorize answers into a category. Fine, fair enough, whatever, it fits. Also, there's sometimes a wheel spin where most of the things on the wheel are either silly cutscene that does nothing with a cameo from the show or double your points and win instantly, which throws most of the trivia stuff out the window by being so powerful. But then there's the mini games. One of these happens at the end of every 4-question round, so fairly frequently, and involves all players. But also sometimes there's randomly some one-player mini games, usually for the player in last place so they have a chance to catch up. These minigames seem to award points in fairly inconsistent intervals. Sometimes you'll do one and get like 50 points, which is nothing and it feels pointless, and other times you'll get 5,000, the game's just over on the spot. It's like they wanted to make South Park Mario Party but got too lazy, so they just smashed the 15 mediocre minigames they'd already made into a trivia game and went home after making this game for 2 weeks. The minigames are just a bundle of oddities, ranging from pretty awful to mediocre, and most of them are rip-offs of other games. Asses in Space is just asteroids. It's fine enough asteroids, but it's asteroids. Go-Kart is a serviceable top-down racer. There's a weird little Donkey Kong clone where you play as Cartman's cat. A Galaga clone that can go on for damn near 10 minutes. This frog toss game that borders on a luck minigame, I have genuinely no idea how you're supposed to gauge where you're throwing something. There's a little Paperboy ripoff, but with pizzas. This minigame that's just like the Mr. Mime one from Pokemon Stadium. This one is just the Rattata minigame from Pokemon Stadium. Perhaps the best of the bunch is this stupid chicken wrangling game with built-in griefing because you can pick up and throw other players or just pick them up and carry them around indefinitely and screw them out of points. None of the minigames are good, and their existence kind of ruins the trivia aspect. Like, you get so many points from some of the minigames that you do not have to answer any of the questions. You can just fuck around and immediately just screw up a question by matching A, and what are your opponents gonna do about it? But Connor, Grant, and myself had a fucking blast with Chef's Love Shack. Don't get me wrong, it's not a great party game. It's one of the cheapest budget titles I've ever seen, and I think it was genuinely made in about a week and a half. But it's fast-paced and chaotic in a stupid way that had us rolling. Griefing in the trivia questions by racing to cut them off, playing the mediocre minigames and laughing about griefing there, having a giggle over fat people-based questions. Would the spark be there if we returned to it? Not likely, but there was a certain magic to the whole thing that had me nearly crying with laughter as the game kept dropping unexpected craziness on us and terrible mini-games at every opportunity. For whatever it's worth, Chef's Love Shack does capture the style of very early South Park pretty well. I'm guessing they just digitized the official model sheets, but it stands out for looking really clean and accurate, not to mention being a rare N64 2D game and a 2D game on the other consoles, as pretty much everyone wanted to be on the cutting edge and hop over to the third dimension. There's a pretty nice authenticity to the whole thing that the game would have lacked in 3D, and it does a solid job at replicating the show's animation stylings too. Of course, half of this game is the characters pretty statically standing on a stage waiting for questions, but there's also a series of small cameos from other characters like Jimbo and Mr. Garrison that used to be fairly important characters in the series' earliest days. I mean, hell, Chef was basically the fifth lead in the earliest seasons. None of the minigames are terribly impressive, but they do all have unique assets. The ski slope is played from a straight-on angle and uses some neat little tricks to show the faces changing. The cow chases from the side. The fat fetish minigame has unique fat Cartman sprites. Honestly, it captures the spirit of South Park pretty well visually. Now, how great you think that is kinda gonna depend, but I thought all that stuff was pretty cool. The game also features the voices of the characters, although I'm like 99% sure it's all archival audio despite Matt and Trey getting credited in the credits. Nobody says anything terribly specific, but as far as making a South Park thing goes, it sells the illusion well enough, especially for the time. The soundtrack is mostly whatever. It's fun that it starts on a chef song from the show, so props there, and credit where it's due, most if not all of the minigames have their own music across a variety of genres and styles. The frog toss music is gonna live in my nightmares because it's like weirdly loud, but there's something really funny about the generic pizza music and the generic Spanish music for the bull ride minigame, the pretty good surf rock for the avalanche thing, the generic cheery Christmas music for the snowball fight, and the horror music for Whack-A-Zombie. Absolutely public domain classical music. I've heard that pizza song about 1 billion times, but I appreciate the little bit of effort that went into making the minigames unique, even if most of the music is nothing special. South Park Chef's Love Shack is a very ramshackle and strange party game. After you finish a set of rounds, the developers left a quote-unquote ironic message telling you that they were tired of working on it and they were going home. The points stop mattering when the trivia portion collapses under the weight of buzzer spam and when the minigames can just win you the game without the trivia stuff, and the minigames are a hell of a mixed bag. But boy, was it fun to stare in amazement as things kept happening and the game got more and more wacky. I don't think we were laughing with the game, but at it. But even saying that, I can't lie, I had a lot of fun. I do feel kinda bad though. I think going into it blind and getting constantly just caught off guard by bad minigames and increasing frustration with the trivia portion is what made it. But I can't just trust me bro on some 20-year-old shovelware without explaining why it's so funny. Still, with the right group and the right drinks, there is a sort of perfect, so bad it's good game quality to it. Oddly, I don't think, despite how much it looks and sometimes sounds like South Park, that it'd do very much for South Park fans. It's at its core kind of a generic, slightly edgy trivia game that has a few South Park references, but the aesthetics do add a little bit to its odd little so bad it's good party game thing.